Hello, today we're going to be looking at nonlinear inequalities. What this means is basically any inequality that's something other than linear. So it could be quadratic, it could be rational, it could be anything like that. Here we have listed sign chart. We're not going to do much of that. So I'll show you. Here's the first example. Algebraically, here is how you'd go through doing this process. You would first subtract 1 from both sides because you'd want to get this quadratic by itself. Anytime you solve a quadratic or anything greater than linear equations, you'd want to get it equal to 0 on the other side. And from here, we would do our x method factoring. Now that we have an equal to 0, you would do x method. So you'd ask yourself, what are factors of a times c that add up to b? Well, a times c is 1 times 15, so we have 15 there. Negative 8 goes on the bottom. The factors of 15 that add up to negative 8 would be negative 5 and negative 3. So when you put these in parentheses, remember we split this power right here. So it'd be x to the first minus 5 times x minus 3 is less than or equal to 0. So my zeros would be at 5 here when you set this equal to 0 and 3. That's the x-intercepts. Now here's what we do with the sign chart. That means if we looked at the graph, we should have a picture here of a parabola hitting, where's this little bit? There it is, at 3 and 5, which we do here, at 5 and 3. And now what you could do is, one, look at the picture and you'd see, oh, these are the values that are below or equal to 0 in this area. And so you just say that your interval, the answer would be the interval between 3 and 5. That's in right there, that's an interval notation. And if you wanted to, you could write it as 3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 5. You could write your answer that way. Now, what the sign chart is, why I don't use it, is I like using pictures, visuals, is you just plug in the values. Here, you take something that's less than 3 and something that's in between 3 and 5, and then something that's greater than 5, and you plug it into this equation. If I chose, for example, 2, because it's less than 3, 2 here would be 2 minus 5. That's a negative number, negative 3. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Both of these are negative. A negative times a negative gives you a positive. Well, at the start, we wanted something that is, or at the end here, less than 0. We wanted something negative. This is positive. So this would not be a good portion of the graph. This is out. In the middle, like a number like 4, we get a negative, and 4 minus 3 here is 1, so we have a positive. But negative times a positive is a negative, and that's a good section. That's what we want. Over here, any number bigger than 5, like 6, you get a positive and a positive, which gives us positive. We don't want a positive, so that section's out. So your answer would be between those two intervals. Obviously, that takes a lot longer, and that's why I don't use the sign chart. I just graph and look at the values. So here's one for you to try. And you could try by solving, or you could, if you wanted to, graph this as F1, this as F2, and look at where this portion is less than this portion.